I'd never had this many teams approach me. I was so stoked to be able to do a shoey. I always told myself if I get onto the podium, like first podium, I'm going to do a shoey. I got to the race, did track walk and stuff. And after track walk, I was just like, what am I doing here? I don't belong here. I don't know how many people know this, but coming into 2024, I was...
Anna Newkirk, welcome to the Downtime Podcast. How's things with you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here and record this with you.
Nice. Well, like I said to you, I think in Ludenville, you've been one of the most requested guests for a little while now. So it's fun to sit down and chat. And obviously, we've got some exciting team news, which we'll cover a little bit later as well. But first off, let's just start at the start and get some background. Initially, you were born in the United States, right? Whereabouts in the US were you?
Yeah, I was born in Salt Lake City, Utah. Lived there until I was 7, almost 8, and then moved to Switzerland, to Basel.
Yeah. Okay, and you've got a few siblings, right? You're one of a few in the family.
Yeah, I'm one of 4.
And is it all brothers, the other 3?
All brothers. Yep.
Okay, what was that like growing up then? Was there a lot of sort of competitive spirit in the family?
Oh yeah, we're a super competitive family, but it definitely kind of shaped me to who I am today, growing up with 3 brothers and very competitive brothers. My parents too, they're also pretty competitive. So definitely kind of shaped the, I guess, athlete in me.
Yeah, for sure. And was it BMX initially then that did you follow your brothers into that back home in the US? Is that where the kind of riding side of things started for you?
Yeah, so I started off riding BMX. My older brother, Bennett, he's the one who first got into it because he couldn't even ride a bike. And he saw one of my dad's old trophies because my dad used to ride and race some BMX. And my brother was like, oh, I want one of those trophies. I want to do that. My dad was like, dude, he can't even ride a bike. But he then learned and he started riding and racing BMX. And I just kind of did whatever he did. So I also started riding and racing BMX only till I was maybe 7, I think. And then we moved to Switzerland and got more into mountain bikes and stuff like that.
What drove the move to Switzerland then?
It was my dad's job. He got a job offer in Switzerland. He actually got the choice to move to either Tennessee or to Switzerland. And they decided on Switzerland, mainly just because there's really good education system here. University is practically free and just really good education system, stuff like that.
Fair play, yeah, and equally not a bad place to live for sure. Having visited Switzerland, it's pretty nice in the main part. So, what do you remember from that move then? 7 years old, that's a pretty big deal, I guess, because you've started to make friendships. You'd be in school, it's quite an upheaval to move countries to the other side of the planet, really, at that time in your life.
Yeah, I don't honestly remember too much. I do remember I was really sad leaving my best friend at the time. She lived just around the corner and we'd always go play together and run around outside. But I do think coming from such a large family and having so many siblings made it a lot easier because we could always play together outside. We always had somebody to go do things with, to go play with when we were little.
Yeah, where do you stack up in the ages then? Are you one of the elder siblings or?
Yeah, I'm the second oldest.
Okay, fair enough. So you've got one bigger brother, 2 little brothers.
Yeah.
Excellent. And talk us through then, you're in Europe. How do you get from being a BMX kid into starting to find mountain biking? How does that transition happen?
I think what really drove it for us was having a local 4-cross series. Okay. I used to race so much 4-cross when I was little, and so did my brothers, because we had a series in Switzerland, a really good one. And most of the races were pretty close and it was pretty easy sport to get into.
I guess similar to BMX in many ways, right?
Yeah, for sure. And for 4-cross, you don't really need too much fancy stuff. We were just racing hardtails, dirt jump bikes usually, something like that. So it was pretty easy to get into. Lots of fun too. Battling head to head is still one of my favorite things. I love racing dual slalom and stuff like that. And so that kind of started the transition into mountain biking. And then we had the IXS Rookies Cup here in Switzerland, not in Switzerland, in Europe. So we then started getting into that, getting more into like downhill racing and stuff like that. My older brother actually used to be really, really good. He won, I think, the U17 overall, like U15 overall, stuff like that. He was really quick. And I just also kind of raced.
Followed along. Yeah. Do you remember your first Rookies Cup?
I do, actually. It was really cool. It was at the Dermasters Festival in Winterberg, which is a really big festival in Germany. And I think I was racing against the boys because we didn't have a U13 girls class back then because there just weren't very many girls racing. And I think I got third on the day.
Fair play.
Something like that.
Yeah. That must have felt pretty good at that time, right? Like the boys are starting to have a little bit of testosterone floating about, maybe just in the latter end of that category. So
yeah, for sure. They were not stoked. I mean, some of them were. It was actually really cool. There were a few guys who were like really impressed and thought it was really cool. And then on the other side, there were some other guys who were not super impressed and were like, fuck, why is this girl beating us?
Was that something that just sort of like washed over you, or was that something that you kind of got stoked on? Like, I'm beating these boys.
Oh yeah, I loved it. I loved beating boys wherever I could. It was my main driver when I was a kid. It was just beating my brothers, beating other guys, just competing with the boys.
That's awesome. So yeah, you had that first year. I think it was 2012 was your first year in IXS Rookies Cup, and I think you kind of had it to yourself, like you say, in the U13 women's category. But in 2013, another young lady turned up, which some people might know the name Vali Höll. What do you remember about Vali showing up for the first time? Because I think that kind of changed things, right?
Oh, I remember she was way quicker than me.
Yeah, she put like 30 seconds into you in that first race that you did together, I think.
Yeah,
which is
definitely
insane.
And I think she won like the whole class as well. I was like, it was weird. I don't think the first year or so we really talked that much, but then because we've been racing together our whole careers, we started talking like a bit more a few years later and stuff. But I remember that first year I was quite off the back just in the whole class in general. Like I went from my first year in that category being like pretty good to the next year being like pretty far off the back, like struggling to even keep up with anybody. But I think a lot of that may have had to do with I was riding a bike that was way too huge for me.
Fair.
Which with 12, 11-year-olds is happens all the time.
Yeah,
but
pretty common.
Yeah, no, it was definitely like a big motivation seeing her just go destroy everybody, like all the guys. And it definitely motivated me to get faster again and try and keep up.
Yeah, well, you had like a good few years in those IX races together, and it took a little while, but by 2015, there were a couple of occasions there where you'd managed to beat Vali. Like, what were you consciously doing things to try and close that gap? Like, it sounds like you obviously wanted to, like you were chasing Vali's performance, I guess, for those years.
I don't know if I was consciously doing anything to close that gap. Like, for me, when I was 15, 16, whatever, I was kind of just like riding my bike, having fun. Honestly, I don't even remember what like my race craft anything was like. I don't remember what I did. I don't know if I warmed up, if I like I definitely didn't watch any GoPros or anything like that. That wasn't a thing back then. But I don't know. I rode my bike a lot. I had a lot of fun riding my bike, and I think I was definitely trying to go faster on race weekends, but I wasn't really doing anything in between.
So yeah, 2018 then was your first year racing World Cups. Like, what did it take for you to make that step from like the IXS Cups and racing like the, I guess, European level races to getting into racing a World Cup? Because I don't think you were on a team at that point.
I was on a team, but it was like a local Swiss team called Team Project. And I think it was always kind of the natural trajectory for me to go race World Cups, because I was like one of a handful of girls racing the IXS Cups, and it was usually like Vali, me, well, it was Vali, and then quite a bit further down me, and then even further down everybody else. So I think it was always like, I guess, the natural trajectory to go race World Cups. But I remember my first year junior, I was an absolute riot. I was so chaotic.
Yeah, talk us through it. Like, what made you so chaotic at that point? Was it just like a lack of knowledge of what you should be doing? Was it just an age thing? Like, what was going on?
I think it's just being a junior. I don't know. I feel like it's just part of the junior experience. Like, not everybody does it, but I know a lot of juniors who are that chaotic. Like, I just crashed a lot. I didn't really know what I was doing. And I was trying to go fast, but I was lacking, I guess, maybe some skill. I was going a lot faster than my skills maybe allowed me to do. I wasn't as focused, didn't really like know how to get into like tunnel vision or to that like really focused zone that you should be in when you're racing. So I just crash a lot in practice and in race runs, and yeah.
Going ham. And I think Lozenge was your first round, which is not the easiest track maybe for a first World Cup, like pretty different to a lot of stuff on the circuit.
I remember loving the track. I had a really, really good time riding. It was kind of slow and techy, which suits me well. It still does suit me well. And yeah, I really enjoyed riding. I had a lot of fun on track, had a decent qualifying run. I think I qualified second. And then in finals, because I was a chaotic junior, I got a flat like halfway down the track, something like that.
Yeah, 5th place in the end, though, I think, against, riders like Vali, Millie Onset. Like, you were in there in a pretty competitive time, I would say.
Yeah, I think my splits were pretty good up until where I flatted. I think I was like just a little bit behind, first behind Vali, and then flatted. And on that track, once you flat, there's nothing you can do because it's so flat and the bottom is urban. So I just lost so much time doing that. Yeah. I was super frustrated because I was so hyped. I really wanted to do well. I really wanted to podium and race my best and like prove to everybody what I can do or whatever. And then, of course, flatted like first World Cup.
It took a few rounds, right? I think it was round 4 in Val d'Isole where you got 2nd place, which is probably the first time you'd been able to lay down like that performance maybe that you knew was in you, but you were trying to access that season.
Actually, kind of funny that race in Val d'Isole, I did huge in my race run.
Really?
I did, yeah, massive crash. There's actually a great photo of that crash where I was like full scorpion. But yeah, I had a massive crash. I think my first podium as a junior was in Fort William, where I didn't ride. I think I also probably crashed because
you're a junior.
Because I was a junior. But then after I got that first podium, I started getting into a flow. And I think the first race where I didn't crash or get a flat in one of my races. Oh, then there was Leogang where I crashed and got a flat. That was fun. But I think it was Andorra. It was the first one where I like had a clean run. Didn't like do anything too stupid, didn't hit the ground, didn't get a flat. And then kind of started finding a flow from there. Like I remember Worlds being pretty good as well. And yeah.
Yeah, and moving into 2019, second year in that junior category, maybe a little bit less of a loose unit that season. Like you took your first win round 2 in Fort William. Did you feel like you were capable of winning that weekend?
Not really. It was a really weird weekend. I remember being weirdly agitated all week by like, I don't even know why. I was just in a really weird mood. And then riding, I only got maybe 3 practice runs in, and I had a pretty huge crash and like hurt my toe or something, my foot, pretty bad. But yeah, had another huge crash in my qualifying run, but finals, everything seemed to work out well for me, which was good.
Yeah, did it feel good to finally get that like seemingly elusive win after, a season and a bit of World Cup racing?
Oh yeah, it felt really good, especially because Vali was unbeaten then, and it was Millie and I had kind of been like trying, but not having. I mean, it's not like we weren't quite there. We were like Vali wasn't just winning, she was smoking us at like every single race. We weren't even close most of the time, but it felt good to, finally have somebody else win. And then later on in the season, and I think Millie also won a race, which was really cool. So
yeah, I wanted to talk about that because I mean, you had an amazing season really in 2019 in anyone's book, but Vali just had that like dominant position, I guess, within the junior women's field and was garnering the vast majority of the media attention. How did you find that? Was that hard for you to be, I guess, overshadowed by someone who, on your day you could beat, but like, or was it a benefit to just be able to get on with your work and do your thing without having to deal with the media?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, she definitely deserved all like the media attention that she got because, she was dominating. She was posting times that would have gotten her podiums in the elites and stuff like that. And I know it's part of the sport and an important thing for athletes to get media attention, but for me, like mainly for sponsors and stuff, but for me personally, I don't really need that or crave that so much. Like it's always cool when people are stoked on what you're doing, but I've never really needed to be in the spotlight. I don't know. I get sometimes a bit weird when there's too much attention. I don't know what to do. So I don't know. I'm fine. I've always been fine focusing on what I'm doing in my own racing, I guess.
Yeah, especially when you're a bit younger, I guess it must be even harder like to deal with. I think you see it with junior riders are generally less comfortable in those like media situations a lot of the time. So maybe not having too much attention in the young years is not necessarily a bad thing. And it put a lot of pressure on Vali, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because with attention also comes pressure.
Yeah, for sure. So 2020 then would have been your time to step up into elite, but as we know, COVID came along. How did you deal with everything that sort of threw into the mix? Because it was a really weird year for everyone on the planet, but especially for people that, were supposed to be traveling and doing their job as an athlete. It was a pretty weird year.
Yeah, 2020 was a super weird year. The only actual race I did that year was Worlds. And if anybody remembers Worlds in 2020, it was hell. It was like the hardest race ever. And they were so strict with all the like COVID restrictions and stuff like that and wearing your mask. And I remember we had to ride with our accreditation around our neck or they wouldn't let us back in the pits. And there was one time when we were standing outside of the pits and we were like, we're clearly racing. Look at us. We are covered in mud. We have number plates on our bikes. Like, why aren't you letting us into the pits? Nobody's going to be out here in the snow at freezing temperatures having fun riding the World Cup track. It was so miserable. And they wouldn't let us get back into the pits because we didn't have our accreditation. And it was a really weird year for racing. That was the only race I did due to like, I guess some personal reasons. I didn't want to travel too much. So I just stayed home and didn't race, which was also good because I'd had at the end of 2019, I got a pretty decent concussion. And I think I was still kind of recovering from that. So it's probably good that I didn't race.
Yeah. Is it fair to say you got like a little bit burnt out on the whole thing through that kind of 2020, 2021 timeframe?
Oh yeah, 100%. I was super burned out. Like through pretty much all of 2020, most of 2021, up until the end of 2021. I was pretty burned out. I think part of it was due to COVID. Part of it was due to that concussion that I sustained in 2019. And then also not racing during COVID, trying to come back in 2021 was pretty difficult with just missing racing for a whole year.
Yeah, it's a big chunk of time out. How do you go about kind of resetting then and getting yourself back into a good place with it all? Did you find clearly you found a way to get back to the point where you were enjoying what you were doing?
Yeah. For me, I remember that it was in Maribor. Something just kind of clicked for me and I started enjoying it again. I think I more just focused on a few things like my, I guess, self-talk, how I not talk to myself, but like my inner dialogue was pretty negative in through most of 2021. Like I was just thinking, oh well, I'm not going to do well anyways. Blah blah blah. And if you're thinking that you're not going to do well, then you're not going to do well. That's common sense to most people, but to me at the time, it was not. So towards the end of the year, I started being a bit nicer to myself, just focused on having fun and enjoying it, and maybe like tried to be a little bit more confident in myself and my ability, and it kind of worked. And then once I started riding better, then I started having a lot more fun. Once I started having more fun, I started riding better, and yeah, things just kind of got better from there.
Yes, that spiral, isn't it? It can either go up or down depending on which way you're kind of taking yourself. Did you have any help with that, like the psychological side of things, or was it all kind of self-reflection to work that stuff out and kind of work to improve it?
I think it was all just kind of self-reflection. I didn't really have any help for it, but like I had my friends and stuff that I could talk to. But yeah, I think a lot of it was self-reflection, and maybe definitely also friends telling me that, telling myself that I'm not going to do well probably isn't the best idea.
Sounds like you got some good friends around you at least, so that's a good position to be in. And,
sure.
and talking about friends, I want to talk a bit about Beyond Racing and how that fits into all of this, because I think that's a really important part of your story. First off, though, tell us a little bit about how and when you met Abby, because that's, I guess, the two founders of Beyond Racing.
Yeah, I met Abby just randomly in the woods one year, as most mountain bikers meet. No, I also met her at their masters in Winterberg in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And we just did some laps together, had some fun, stuff like that. And then in 2018 is when we started becoming like close friends. It started, I'd say the starting point to our actual like really close friendship was when we went on this road trip, like just to some bike parks and stuff. And we slept in the back of her, I don't remember what it was. It was like a Kangoo or something like that. Some like tiny car on a tiny mattress in this parking lot. And then started riding a lot together, traveling a lot together. And then in 2021, towards the end of the year at Worlds, actually, we were like, why don't we run our own team? It'd been an idea that we'd had before, but it was always only an idea. We were like, nah, like it was always like, oh, maybe we should run our own team, start our own team, but never really did it. In 2021, we were like, maybe we should like actually do this. So that week during Worlds, for some reason, we put together like a deck for our team and started talking to people, started talking to sponsors and potential sponsors, stuff like that. One person we talked to who helped us so much along the way was Elliot Jackson. He, like, without him, none of this would have been possible. He helped us learn so much on what sponsors are looking for, how to market ourselves, where we have value, where we can maybe things we need to work on to gain more value. Yeah, he was a huge part in setting up our team.
That came from a bit of a drunken after party chat with Elliot, right? Like,
oh yeah,
that was the fun, like where it all came from. Yeah,
no, definitely. We were. I mean, I was sober because I was 21 yet. Yeah, it was. Yeah, we were all pretty having a good time, and then it was when we first talked, and we were like, "Elliot, we're gonna start our team." And he was like, "Oh my god, I'll help you guys," and we were like, "Cool."
That's amazing. What talk us through a little bit about how you go about putting something like that together, right? Because it is a huge project, and like you say, defining what value you bring to sponsors is really critical for that. It's not just a case of being, we're quite fast, can we have some money and some kit, please?
Yeah, no, it was a lot to learn to know where we have value, but it's I guess the first thing we did is just put it together a deck to send to sponsors. Well, I think actually Elliot put it together for us. And we like kind of sent him some pictures and like some things and stuff, and he put together this thing for us, which kind of like split our value into 3 different sectors. Like we had racing, media, and coaching and clinics and stuff like that. because we did and still do clinics for kids and women and just men too sometimes, like adults, just for everyone.
Yeah.
Because we're both bike coaches. I still occasionally do some bike coaching. Abby still does too. And yeah, we kind of split our, like what we do into 3 different sectors and wrote down where we can give the sponsors visibility and where we think we have value, how many people will be come into contact with the sponsors' products through what we do, stuff like that. And then sent it off to sponsors and hoped for the best.
Yeah. So, I mean, an all-female team, which I think was a first at that point in downhill. Do you think that was a help or a hindrance when it came to getting funding back at the start of Beyond Racing?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think for some brands, or to get some brands on board, it was a help. For others, it was a hindrance. Because even though it is, or back then it was 2021, 2022, now 2024, there are still brands who like don't necessarily, who like, you know, like having their token female, but then no more than that. You know, just like a lot of brands still have like one woman, and then that's like, yeah, but what they do. I've been told by quite a few brands that they already support a woman, or they already have like their quota of women, which has always been like 2 or 3.
Right.
So they don't really need more than that. But with other brands, it also helped. Like they were really stoked on it because it was something different. And they were really keen to support us. And there are a lot of brands who are super keen on supporting the women's sport, or women's racing, women's downhill, whatever you want to call it, which is really cool to see. Like
do you think that's progressed at all? Like, do you think it would be easier to fund a project like Beyond Racing if you took out all the other kind of woes that the industry has at the moment? But like, do you think there's more energy behind funding the women's side of things than there was 2 or 3 years ago when you were putting that together?
Yeah, 100%. Even 2 or 3 years ago, it was already so much better than it was in like 2018, 2019. I think it was 2018, something like that. I had one brand tell me that they couldn't support me for downhill, but they could support me for enduro if I wanted, because it's more of a girls' sport.
Whoa. Really?
Yeah.
Okay. That's insane.
But
I would hope you wouldn't hear that today.
Yeah, no, it's gotten so much better. And it's really, really awesome seeing how many more women are on teams now, how many junior women are on teams. Even when I was a junior, like it was, you just didn't really have very many junior women's on big factory teams. And it's really cool to see. It's really cool to see how many teams have not just one, but multiple women on their roster. Also something that you wouldn't see like 5 or 6 years ago. So it's really, really cool seeing how much the support for women in the industry has grown.
Yeah, changing in a positive way for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, 2022, you're there with Beyond Racing, and like the first half of the season, on paper at least, looks a little bit up and down. But by Lenzerheide, you were in the top 10, and you stayed there for the rest of the season, I think. Like, do you feel that you changed things or refined the process throughout that first half of the season and did something to help with consistency? Or is there, what's the story from your side on that 22 season?
I think it was just kind of still getting over the burnout from the past 2 years, because it's anybody who's kind of experienced burnout knows that it's not just like something doesn't just click and then you're better, good to go, and not burned out and love doing what you're doing. It's still a process, and there's still ups and downs. But for me, it was still like, there were some ups and there were also some downs. And I think it took until maybe the second half of that 2022 season for it to be like more consistent, and not like, I guess, ups and downs, for it to, just be more like consistently good and consistently feel good and enjoy what I'm doing.
Yeah. And so you've found that in 2022, sort of the second half, which must feel really good. But then obviously with 2023, it was kind of all changed, right? We moved over to Warner Brothers Discovery. into the what is now an old format, but then was the new format where we've got semi-finals and all these sorts of things going on. Do you think that format shift to semi-finals was a bigger disadvantage to the smaller teams with less staff? Like, it on paper, it feels like it would be like harder for smaller teams to deal with.
Yeah, definitely. Like sometimes the times in between, I think that first year it was qualifying on one day, and then the next day semifinals and finals were on the same day. Yeah. And making that transition in between semifinals and finals this year as well, like the times, well, this year is between qualies and semis, but the times were not, it wasn't very much time. It was just, yeah, it wasn't much time at all. And especially at muddy races when you had to watch your bike, get all your gear changed, whatever. I didn't really have time to do much other than get my stuff sorted.
Yeah, and I'm guessing you're not swanning back into the pit, giving your bike to someone to go wash it and sitting down and having your lunch, are you? It's a bit different at Beyond Racing, I would imagine.
Depending on the race, we did have people. I think at most races, we had somebody helping us out. We had it was really, really nice. We're really lucky. We had some friends come help wrench for us and stuff like that, or give us massages, whatever. So we're pretty lucky in that sense that most of the time I had somebody who could help me out, but it wasn't always, and it was never guaranteed, I guess.
Yeah, hard to get into a consistent sort of process with things, I suppose. How did you find it adapting to that format then? The change, it was a big change at that point, I think, from qualies finals to putting that semi into the mix.
Yeah, I had a really hard time with the semis. I don't know if I just had a hard time in general in the 2023 season, but I put so much pressure on myself for semis to get into finals because the women's field is really competitive at the moment, and having only 10 women in the finals is like not very much at all. So, and it was really, really frustrating last season, or 2020, season before last, 2023, because I felt like I had the speed. I just don't think that I had the confidence to put down a consistent run or a consistently fast run. Like any time that I would have a good qualifying or whatever, most of the time I'd like blow up in semis or do something dumb or like ride too conservatively because I didn't want to crash. So I couldn't really find a balance, which, yeah, in 2023 was really frustrating for me. I think I made it into finals twice, or I think I raced 3 finals, something like that. So not many at all. Yeah, it was definitely hard for me to adapt to.
Yeah, you made the finals at the first round in Lenzerheide, though. That must have felt like, okay, we've got this for the season. Was it hard to achieve it there and then have a few rounds where you didn't make the cut? Does that make it almost worse?
I think it actually made it better. Because I know that there were some girls who should have been in finals who weren't making it into finals. And I feel like it's a lot worse if you haven't had a single, like, if you haven't raced finals one single time in the season. It kind of adds to the pressure, and you're like, okay, but like I have to make it into finals at least once, or else, you know, sponsors might be mad or whatever. Yeah, I think I had that, like, at least I made it into finals once, I guess.
Yeah, fair. And Leger looks like maybe your best weekend of racing from that 2023 season. Like, you had a nice progression, kind of 10th qualies, 9th semis, 6th in finals, which I think was your best result in elite at that point. Like, was there something about that weekend, that race, that like felt right, or can you put a finger on why that one went so well?
Yeah, Leger, that was a good week. I felt really good riding, and it was really cool because in each of my qualies, semis, and finals runs, I was like, okay, that was a really good run. I can't do better than that. And then in semis, I improved my time. I was like, okay, that one was even better. I don't know if I can do better than that, though. And then in finals, I improved my time even more, and it was really cool. And yeah, I got 6th, which was my best result at the time. Very, very bittersweet, though, because I was, I think, 0.02 off of the podium.
Okay, understandable.
Yeah, that like kind of killed me. Yeah, it hurt on the inside.
Yeah, Fair. And that was the season that you were on the Contra bike for the first year as well, which is quite a unique piece of kit, and a beautiful bike actually. For anyone that's ever seen them in the flesh, like, they are stunning things to look at. How was it getting up to speed on that? Because it's quite a different bike, I guess, from what you were on before.
It was actually really, really easy to get up to speed too. I pretty much, from the first time I rode it, felt super comfortable. Felt good on it right away. It was one of those bikes that was really easy to adapt to and to get used to. To be fair, it doesn't usually take me long to adapt to new bikes or new suspension, new tires, whatever. But yeah, I remember riding the first bike for the first time. Usually I don't know. I've experienced in the past, I'll get on a bike for the first time, I'll be like, this is weird. But with the Contra, I felt super comfortable right away.
Yeah, that's cool. And it, as Evan and his partner as well, I think, that kind of came on and supported Beyond Racing for the last couple of years, which has been a bit of a dream team for you to help out, right?
Yeah, definitely. We're really grateful to have had that support from Evan and Contra and stuff like that. It was really, really, really cool riding for them. I loved the bike. I got along with it really well. And it was a cool project too. I think it was cool racing a steel bike at the World Cup, being the only or one of the only riders or like teams on a steel bike.
Yeah, definitely. So end of 2023 then, like, how do you reflect on that season, and what did you want to get done over the winter coming into 2024 to give yourself the best chance?
So it was kind of funny. After the 2023 season, I was really frustrated because I knew that I had the speed to do like decently. I'd had some good, in Leger, I was 0.02 off of fifth place. In snowshoe, I think I qualified fourth, sorry. Definitely not first. Fourth, and then crashed in semifinals and didn't make finals, missed the cutoff by a second. Same in Mont Saint Anne. I had a decent quali, and then in semis I didn't crash, but I had a bobble in the rock garden or something, which took away a decent amount of time, so didn't make finals there either. And I remember coming back after the 2023 season, I was just not super stoked on riding, so I took a break from riding. I didn't ride for probably a couple months. Mm-hmm. And throughout the winter as well. Oh, I was super busy because I was studying last winter too. I started going to university. I've since stopped out again, but for that 1 year, I was going to university. So I was spending my time like either working. So at the time it was coaching, like kids courses and stuff like that. Going to school, studying, or training. And to be honest, most of my focus didn't go into training. Like, I wasn't super intentional or focused with what I was doing just because I had so much. Oh, and running the team too. That was also there. It's because I had a decent amount on my plate. So it was kind of like I would train where I could, but it was more like just as efficiently as possible. So it's actually, I don't know how many people know this, but coming into 2024, I was kind of at a crossroads on what my future in racing would look like. Just because last few seasons I've been like, racing all right, but I hadn't really been making any money off of racing, and it's a lot of time and effort that you're spending on training, going to races, stuff like that. And it was getting to the point where it just wasn't really feasible for me to be doing full time anymore, just because I would scramble in winter to make enough money to actually survive on to pay bills and stuff like that. So I was kind of at a crossroads, and I was either gonna, if I had a good season, then I was gonna try and find a situation where I could actually make enough money to afford to survive, or I was probably going to take a break from World Cup racing.
No way, fair play. So did you come into the 2024 season in your view anyway, maybe a little under prepared or under trained then from what you were saying? It sounds like you had a winter that wasn't like the optimum for going racing.
I mean, it's weird. I did do a lot of riding still. Like I went to Spain, Abby and I went to Spain, to Italy, stuff like that. I spent a lot of time riding. And while I didn't spend as much time training as maybe other people did or one usually would preparing for a World Cup season, I think it was important for me to go through that and do that and to kind of like maybe focus more on myself and learn that I guess it's like, I don't know, it's only bike racing. And I think it was important for me to learn that and kind of take the pressure off of it and kind of reassure myself that like I really enjoy doing this, but in the grand scheme of the world, it doesn't really matter what I do. And I think I learned that throughout the beginning of the season that like I can just ride my bike. I really need to take the pressure off of myself and just focus on like, yeah, doing as good as I can, having fun riding my bike. And yeah, I think it was an important thing for me to learn that it doesn't really matter that in the grand scheme of things, like it's gonna be fine. If I don't qualify, if I don't make semis, then the world's not gonna end.
Yeah, it's not a life or death thing, I guess. But when you're an athlete and you're in the thick of it, it's hard to kind of get that context, I suppose. So we started the 2024 season in Fort William, and I saw you talk about it on a video that you were almost struggling to feel like you belonged there at that race in that group, kind of amongst those other women. Tell us a little bit about that, because given the way this season's gone, that feels kind of crazy, like to hear that now. But that's obviously how you felt at the time, which can't be an easy way to operate at a race.
Yeah, it was weird. I got to the race, did track walking stuff, and after track walk, I was just like, what am I doing here? I don't belong here. Felt like everybody else was so much better than me and so much quicker and stuff like that. And, you know, coming off of the off season, it's also really easy to feel like that the first race of the year, not knowing where you stand, stuff like that. And then at the top of I felt good doing practice, and I think after practice I was a little bit more calm and chill and was like, okay, you know, like it's fine, like I'm not the worst bike rider in the world, that's good. And then at qualies at the top of my run, I was up there and I was looking around at all the girls going in front of me and behind me, and I was like, at this point I just really want to make it into the top 15, you know, that would be cool. Make it into semifinals. And then I had a run. I had actually really good run. It was my best run all week. I got to the bottom. And I looked at the screen and I was like kind of confused. I think it was maybe you and the crowd where you like, you got third. And I was like, what? That's insane. I was shocked because my goal was just to get into the top 15 and I came down and third. I was like, what the hell is going on? This is crazy.
Yeah, I spoke to you like briefly after you crossed the line, and I've never seen someone so baffled with what was going on. You were just like in complete shock that I don't think you thought that maybe the timing was right. Like you didn't seem to be willing to accept that you just put in that performance, which is mad, right?
Yeah, it was super weird because I was like, there's no way that I'm only like a second and a half or 2 seconds or whatever off of the top qualifier. That's crazy. I'd never been that close to any first place ever before. It was so weird.
Amazing. You mentioned that you'd made the bike a little bit longer, I think, in that off season as well, and maybe that was kind of helping you feel like go faster without feeling like you were going faster, maybe. Yeah,
definitely. We added, I don't really remember, either 5 or 10 mils. I think we added 10 millimeters to the reach, and then maybe 5 to the chainstays. But don't quote me on that. I'm not very sure anymore. But yeah, we made the bike a little bit longer, which definitely helped with like body position, especially on how fast the tracks were. Feeling more comfortable going at those paces, and I think it was also just a reach that fit me a little bit better.
Yeah, fair. So you've taken that third in qualifying. I assume you had some you were able to go away and process that a little bit and get your head around what actually happened. What does that change then when you're then going and like sitting at the top for semis? Like, does it add a pressure? Does it take a pressure away? What changed for you?
It was it was kind of funny. I just didn't think. I just stopped thinking after that. I was like, there's no point in me using my brain right now because I'm just going to overthink, or I don't know. So I don't know how I did it. I'm not really good at doing that usually, but I just stopped using my brain, just stopped thinking. My head was void of any thoughts at all.
That must be quite nice.
It was so nice. I've never experienced that before. I've never experienced since, but for those like 3 hours or whatever in between qualies and semis. Oh, and there was a red flag. So we had to, it was like a super long wait in between qualies and semis. Yeah, true. I forgot about that. So I don't know. It was, I really want to know how to do that again or figure out how I did it because it was so good. I was just like chilling. I just wasn't thinking. My goal was to make it into finals. That's all I wanted. I did ride a little bit more conservative than I did in qualifying, but I was just, I don't know. I was chilling.
Nice. Were you at the top the whole time waiting for the track to reopen? Because the top of the Fort William track is a beautiful place. As long as you're warm, it's a beautiful place to sit and just be, right? Yeah,
no, definitely. And it's nice because there's like that kind of indoor area. There's a restaurant where you can go and chill. Plus, it was like Fort William was good because it was the one dry, sunny, kind of nice weather World Cup that we had all year.
True. Yeah, fair. So seventh in semis. And then you've got that kind of reset and go again the next day piece, which does actually give you plenty of time for what's going on to soak in. Did any pressure creep in once your brain was kind of reactivated after that session?
I think definitely during the night, I had a really hard time sleeping, which for me is pretty normal. At races end, just normally I often have a hard time sleeping, but I remember at that race specifically, I had really, really hard time getting to sleep, which is always really frustrating if you're racing the next day because you're just like, oh my God, like just go to sleep. That's when my brain wouldn't be void of thoughts anymore. Couldn't get it to shut off. I was just thinking and thinking and thinking. Like my head's in my head. I'm like going through the track. I'm like, no, why am I doing this? Go to sleep. What's wrong with you? So yeah, definitely probably felt a bit more pressure then. And I rode all right on race day in finals, but I definitely peaked in qualifying. Also, like my time throughout the span of those 3 runs was best in qualifying.
Okay, fair play. Was that a disappointment to kind of drop back from that qualifying pace on reflection, or were you happy with like the whole weekend as one?
It was a little bit frustrating to know that I had more to give and I could have done better, but I was also really happy on the weekend as a whole. It's pretty nice starting off the season on a good foot, on a good note. And I think that really helped me throughout the rest of the season have maybe a little bit more confidence.
Was that feeling of belonging a little bit easier to find after that?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. That's good to Mostly. Hear. So yeah, Poland, 11th place. And then we were off to Leogang. And you had a pretty incredible run of like straight second places in each session, I think. So second quali, second semi, second in final. So not only your first ever elite World Cup podium, but an incredible weekend on the whole to be that consistent. Talk us through Leogang from your perspective.
Yeah, that was a crazy week. I was on a mission in Leogang. Because I've struggled so much there in the past. I'd never had a good race there before. I was telling you earlier about when I was a junior where I crashed and then further down the track I got a flat. That pretty much sums up my Leogang experience. Like I've just never really had a good race there. And I was on a mission to have a good race there. Like was really focused all week. Rode really well in practice, and then qualifying was fun. Qualifying was actually pretty funny because lower down in the woods I went off track a little bit. Like I slid and then, but it wasn't like a super long mistake, but I rode off track and had to like kind of like reverse back on and then keep going, which cost me a bit of time. And after that happened, I was like, oh, there's no way that I'm going to actually like be in the top 15 now. So I just cruised the rest of the way down, which is really dumb. I wouldn't do that anymore. I would still, I think I learned my lesson and still would probably give it, my all to the bottom.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I was protected through the semis. So I was kind of chilling. I was like, whatever, like, it's fine. I'm going to be in semis anyways. So I just cruised to the bottom. And then I was like, I came through and put down the fastest time. And then I was like, okay, that's kind of crazy. Like maybe everybody else kind of messed up or made a mistake too, which I think a lot of people did. But people kept coming through and nobody had gotten a faster time. I was like, this is insane. This is so weird. Until Vali did, obviously. She smoked it. But yeah, it was so weird being on a run where I was like, okay, that was like, there's no way while I'm riding being like, I'm not going to make it into semis or my time is not going to be in the top 15 to qualifying second. That was insane. Very strange.
And I guess in this time you weren't able to turn your brain off.
No, definitely not. And it was qualifying second is weird. It's a little bit intimidating because it's a lot harder. It's really hard to do better and really easy to get worse.
Yeah, fair.
So it's a hard result to build on. So again, for my goal for qualies semis was just to make it through into finals, which I had a really good semifinal run, put together a really clean, fast run. It was really good. My time was good. I wasn't 7 seconds behind Vali anymore. It was only like 2 or 1 or something like that. So I was really stoked that I qualified, that I got second in semis. Again, kind of backed it up, was really, really exciting for me. And then finals, I think maybe for some people it's an advantage, some people don't do it. But one advantage about going later in the race, especially in a race like Leogang, where we had a lot of rain the night before and the conditions were changing quickly, is I could kind of see the times that the other women were posting. Mm-hmm. And see what the track was looking like. And I knew that like Miriam had done this and this time, and that's what I needed to do. I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure if I just have like a consistent, smooth run, I can probably get either that time or near that time, which is what I did. I just focused on having a really safe run. I knew that a lot of girls had crashed too. Like I saw that Jess had crashed, Tanya had crashed. I actually didn't see that Tanya crashed, but I saw that Jess had crashed, that a lot of girls were going down. So I really just focused on having a smooth, consistent run, which is what I did. And I think that was probably the best thing to do there.
Yeah, you made the most of dropping late in the start order, I guess.
You did.
Was that just were you watching the live feed? Was someone feeding you information? Like, how did that look?
I was watching a little bit. Well, I looked at live timing and then I watched a little bit of the live feed because I just had like a screen right there. Yeah, just to kind of see what the conditions are doing and what times the girls were posting. Because usually when you see the times, you kind of know what the track conditions are going to be like because you've ridden it enough times, put down enough timed runs to know like what conditions will put you at what time. And they were going pretty fast, so I was kind of expecting it to be drier than it was in the morning, which it definitely was because the times were, but still more slick than the day before.
Yeah.
So I kind of knew what to expect.
Yeah. Smart move. So how does it feel then to put that together? Because like you say, second, it's very easy to get worse, a lot harder to get better. So to put down a second and stay in that position and take that podium is pretty incredible.
Yeah, thanks. I was really, really, as you can imagine, I was pretty stoked. I honestly wasn't necessarily expecting to be able to hold on to second throughout the course of the week. Just because like it's again so easy to drop a place, drop 2 places, whatever. But I'm really, really happy with how things worked out. I was so focused all week. I walked that track like so many times, watched so many GoPros, was really focused and intentional and practiced. And I think I made a smart decision by riding safely in finals as well. So, super stoked.
Do a shoey on the podium.
Hell yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, the photography from that's great. Like the joy on your face, like doing that shoey, it's clear how much that meant to you.
Yeah, definitely. And I was so stoked to be able to do a shoey. I always told myself if I get onto the podium, like first podium, I'm going to do a shoey.
Good work. So yeah, then the season kind of progressed, like a 9th in Val d'Isole, 10th in Léger. The season's building nicely. You're earning some great points. And then you head off and race an EDR in Belwold. Like, why, I guess?
Oh, why not?
I mean, there's a risk to it. There's a fatigue that comes from it. Like, you obviously enjoy these things, but there wasn't like a massive gap in the calendar there, was there?
It was a pretty long break. That was the race right after Léger, and we had the whole summer break.
Of course, the August break. Yeah.
The only thing that I had, and then in like the next month or so, was nationals in the US.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I like doing an enduro race every once in a while to remind myself why I raced downhill.
You did well though, right? 8th place on the world circuit for someone who doesn't do it kind of every round. Like that's an incredible result.
Thank you. Yeah, I was super shocked, especially considering how physical and pedally the stages were. I wasn't expecting to do super well because I am a downhill racer. I am trained as a downhill racer. And the stages were so pedally. Oh my God. Stage 1 was just like a 12-minute long sprint. It was like doing an FTP test or something like that. It was horrible. I hated it. But there's something about just making myself suffer that I enjoy doing every once in a while, seeing how far I can push my body, which I pushed my body very, very far that week. I think I almost went into organ failure or something. So all my organs were hurting after the race for like the next 2 days. I feel like my kidneys were sore. I've never had a sore kidney or liver before, but I definitely felt it. Probably didn't help that I was given like a beer right after the race.
Yeah, not ideal recovery.
No, but I had a lot of fun doing it. I had some really good support. I got some really good advice. Actually, probably the best advice that I've been given in a while that I maybe carried throughout the rest of the year and still take with me now is that, what did she say? You know Mops?
Yeah. I know Mops.
Yeah. I got it from Mops, and she told me, I'm going to quote it wrong, and she's going to like say something to me, but you can always slow down, but you can't always speed up.
Okay. So
in the past in enduro and even sometimes in downhill, I've been a bit more conservative at the beginning to save energy. But what's the point of doing that? Like, you're going to be tired anyways towards the bottom of the run or 3 stages later. So might as well just like go all out while you're fresh, go as hard as you can, and then recover like in between runs and downhill or in between stages in enduro. So I just went really, really hard from the beginning, like really, really hard. And just pretty much just went as hard as I could throughout the whole course of the day.
And you would carry that into downhill racing as an approach as well, yeah? Definitely.
Yeah. Definitely also carried it into downhill racing and stopped trying to conserve my energy at the top of runs. Because it's like, I don't know why I did that. It's ridiculous. It's at most like a 5-minute run. So, which is still really hard. Like, you are at your max, but yeah, I don't know. I can go all out for 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's what you train for, right? So
exactly.
Yeah, fair play. So yeah, the season's going, I would say, super well. You've got some great momentum. You were clearly gaining a lot of points. And those points were going to become more and more important to teams with all the changes that were coming. Like, when did people start approaching you and talking about 2025? Like, how early in the year were those conversations beginning?
For me, it was in Vali Höll, the week after Leogang. I started getting approached by teams. I think it was super crazy because I've talked to teams and stuff in the past, but had never really found the right fit or the right deal for me, the right team, whatever. But I'd never had this many teams approach me,
Okay.
it was really cool, but also a little bit overwhelming because I'm really bad at making decisions. But I think teams started approaching me in Vali Höll, like right after the Leogang.
Yeah, pretty early in the season. And I spoke briefly to Nico, and he said that he was keen pretty early on. I don't think he knew that the points were like needed or particularly valuable at that point, but he felt like there was a lot of potential and that you'd be a good fit for the team, which is, I guess, a nice thing to hear from someone, that they want you for you and what you bring rather than the points that you can give them to get them where they need to be.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I think he approached me in Léger or something is where we talked for the first time, and then just like kind of chatted throughout the season. And yeah, I made the decision to join Frameworks at the US Open.
Nice.
Yeah, and really stoked on it. Really excited for next year. It's a big change for me for sure, but I know that I still have a lot to learn in terms of racing, bike setup, all that stuff, and a lot to improve on. So I'm really, really looking forward to the next season.
Yeah, so you tested the bike in Rock Creek, I think, like mid-season when you were there was it for US National Champs?
Yeah, I was there for National Champs.
How kind of low key do you have to try and be when you're testing like other brand bikes in the middle of the season? Like, are you trying to hide, or have you just got to get on with it?
So it was pretty easy to be low key at Rock Creek since Nico owns and runs Rock Creek.
Yeah.
And there was nobody else. We just tested on a day when the bike park was closed.
Nice.
Like, we didn't ride the racetrack. We just rode the other tracks like the flow track and we rode the amateur track just because would have been unfair if I would have ridden the racetrack. But we rode like the amateur track and the flow track and stuff like that. And it was really cool testing the bike. It was also one of those bikes where I got on it and pretty much immediately felt comfortable.
Yeah.
Which is really, really cool. Yeah, I really liked the bike, which was a driving factor for me to join the team because I thought it was something that I could work well with and hopefully race well with.
Yeah. I had the same impression. It was a very easy bike to get on and ride, like nothing weird to learn how to ride it.
Did you ride it?
Yeah, I rode it a few years ago, quite early on when he was still like in some of the early development stuff. I rode it at Canuga, so that would have been 22 maybe.
Oh yeah, nice.
But yeah, it was one of those bikes that just works. I wasn't hunting about for body position and grip and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, definitely.
Nice piece of kit. So yeah, while you were there, you picked up the US National Champs sleeve. How important is that to you? Is that just a nice to have, or is it something that you really want to go and get like on a yearly basis?
It's definitely like really, really cool having it and wearing it and being able to, I guess, represent that at the World Cups. It was the second time, I think. Well, yeah, second year that I've been national champion, and it is something that's important to me and that I really, enjoy fighting for.
Yeah, it's cool to have. It's nice to see all the sleeves at the races. One thing I wanted to ask actually was whether you thought you'd be where you are now if as a family you'd stayed in the US, because it feels like that IXS race scene has been such a big part, not just for you, but for Vali, for Mille, for many young riders coming through. It's such an opportunity to gain experience and build racecraft that I think in the era you kind of grew up in, maybe that wasn't there so much in the US, depending on where you were based. But
yeah, that's really interesting actually. I'm unsure if I would be where I am if I hadn't have moved to Switzerland, just because I don't know what my trajectory would have been if I'd stayed in the US. I probably would have kept on racing BMX. Whether that would have transitioned into mountain biking is, I don't know. Like, I know I would have been, at that time, honestly, probably not, at least until I was maybe like a little bit older. Like, I probably wouldn't have started riding mountain bikes at a young age like I did in Switzerland. And I think us moving here and being close to a lot of bike parks and stuff, like I'm within an hour's drive of 2 or 3 riding spots, maybe 4.
Yeah.
Like lift served ones. So it's super accessible here. Having all the IXS Rookies Cups and the European Cups and stuff are all at max 8-hour drive. Like not super far. Most of them are a lot closer. There were many that were like 3 hours away. So really accessible, easy to race. And I don't know if I would have had that if I would have stayed in the US, depending on where we moved to.
Yeah. Do you think that's changing a bit in the US now with like the US Pro Downhill Series, and obviously Nico and Logan have got their series on the East Coast? Like it feels like there is more downhill racing and more opportunity to progress and build racecraft in the US now.
Yeah, definitely. And it's really cool to see how many series there are now to race. Like you have the Pro Downhill Series, which was new. And it's really cool what they're doing. Also really cool that they have good prize money at the races. Like I think it's at least as what you get at a World Cup, which, yeah, I think for a World Cup it's not enough, but that's a different thing. But I think it's cool that they have enough prize money and stuff like that. Lots of categories. You see lots of people racing, which is sick. The Downhill Southeast gets big attendances, lots of people racing. And you have, I guess you kind of have races everywhere. Like we did a Northwest Cup when we were staying in California in 2023. And Port Angeles also got a lot of people racing, lots of different categories. It was really cool. Lots of young kids racing, adults, got everything.
Yeah, so, it's awesome to see that scene progress for sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
nice.
Definitely. It's really, really cool to see how many like series and how much racing is going on in the US and how many people are really committed to racing is really cool. Like how many people really invest a lot of what they have, a lot of their time, a lot of their energy. Obviously also racing isn't free, so a lot of their money as well into racing and trying to improve, I think is really, really cool. I think in the US you see a lot more people who are really really committed to racing, more than you see here in Europe.
Yeah, that's their life kind of thing. They're all in. Yeah, it's cool to see. So yeah, let's talk in a bit more detail about frameworks, because like you said, there were a lot of teams that were interested. Like you had that, I think, perfect storm of a great year of performance and showing what you were capable of, and also a year where those points were almost more valuable than they ever have been to teams. So that opens the doors in a massive way, I'm sure. What made you choose frameworks out of that bunch? Because like, no offense to Nico, what he's built is incredible, but I'm sure there were offers from like, I don't know how to phrase it, glossier teams, maybe like teams with more show.
Yeah, there were definitely a few offers from teams with a lot of show, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, big fancy trucks and all, all of that jazz. Yeah.
Yeah. But to be honest, I just don't really think that that's me. I really am a big fan of what the whole project of frameworks and what Nico and Logan are doing with the bike, developing it and stuff like that, kind of making something that they want to do, that they think is cool, running a smaller team, smaller setup, but like they're really passionate about what they do. I think they're in it for the right reasons, which to me is really important. Also, like, one thing about joining a big team, if it's a big brand, is you have to deal with a lot of bureaucracy because you're the team manager. While, yeah, they're the like person in charge, they still, if they want to do something or I don't know, they still have to go through the higher ups in the company to make changes and stuff like that. Usually things end up being a little bit slower and it's, I don't know, I think the framework setup was just the best fit for me.
Yeah, it's super agile, right? If something needs changing, it can be changed there and then, kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. And I was super keen on joining a smaller team compared to some of like the, I guess, like, big track setups or whatever. I don't know what to say, like how to call it exactly, but just like kind of a smaller, tight knit setup.
Yeah. And do you think, like, obviously you've run your own team with Abby the last couple of years, so you've got heaps of insight into what that takes, whereas a lot of riders that haven't been in that position won't necessarily know. Do you think that in some way it kind of informed your decision as well? Like, you can see what's important, maybe what's less important, and look at who's doing what and what's going to work for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And I guess you're right. I know that what works for me, being on a smaller setup, works for me. I think one of the main things is that Nico and the rest of the team are really passionate about what they do and about running the team. I really like the bike, which was a driving factor. And I was always a big fan of the setup and what they're doing with the whole frameworks project, which I was really excited to join.
They seem to be good at like spending time and hours on things that are going to make people faster rather than things that are going to make stuff look better. Like the truck's not really going to make anyone go faster, right?
I mean, probably not. No.
It looks good and it's comfortable, cool. I'm sure, but yeah.
Yes, but it's really cool, and it's a really good crew of people as well. So, really looking forward to what's to come.
Yeah, and you've had an early team camp, I think, in Valnord, was it?
Yeah.
Is that your first time like together with the whole team?
Yeah, it was my first time with the whole team. We were in Andorra, did some testing all week, tested some really cool things. I got to get to know the bike a bit better, and we were riding the old World Cup track all week. So a really good track to test the bike on and start to feel comfortable on the bike on. We found a pretty good place with suspension and bike setup. Like found a good reach for the bike, like good stem length, good suspension setup. Kind of got base setup good for me, which is good. Like I felt really good riding, really enjoyed riding the bike. Also cool to spend some time with everybody, kind of get to know them all.
Yeah, the good vibes are building.
Yeah, definitely.
Nice. So what do you think being on a team like Framework's going to bring for you in 2025 then? Because for starters, I'm guessing it takes like a lot of things off your plate.
Yeah, it takes very, very many things off my plate. I think it's going to allow me to focus more on just racing and being the best I can be on the track, which is, I've always, running your own program, you have like a million things to focus on race weekend, I guess. Like even just where's our pit space, setting up pit, getting accreditation, going in, registering, whatever, just making sure the bikes are ready, rounding everybody up, figuring out a schedule, just kind of, you're always focusing on something. There's always something to focus on other than racing. So it's going to be cool to figure out, just to focus on myself and racing, and what can I do to be faster.
Yeah, you can literally just show up at the airport, someone will come and pick you up, like food will be sorted. It's going to be a massive change. And you were saying actually before we started recording, like even now your email inbox is way quieter as a result of not having to deal with all the brands and sponsors and stuff. And so that knocks on, right? You've got way more time now to actually recover between training sessions rather than, adding stress from other elements of life. Yeah,
definitely. It was weird because normally this time of the year, not much anymore. Actually, no, still quite a bit. But this time of year, maybe starting from August or something, it was always super busy with talking to brands, talking to sponsors, getting a setup, getting funding, getting products, ordering everything, making sure everything's set up, registering your team, planning kits and stuff for next season, making sure everything gets here on time. It's just a lot of organizing, a lot of planning. And it's been weird having my email be so empty. I get an occasional email every once in a while, but it's like, it's not super just like flooded anymore. I don't have like a million emails to answer to anymore, which is cool.
Yeah, that is good. And Nico mentioned that I think he'd spoken to you in Mons and Anne, and I think you were having to change your own tires between runs or between sessions or whatever, and you were basically getting arm pump changing tires before you'd even headed up the hill. So, like, just having that mechanic and support in the pits is going to be a huge difference.
Oh yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. That's probably going to be one of the best luxuries, is having somebody to look after my bike, just because it takes so much energy. Even just changing tires is the most frustrating thing during a race weekend, just because it takes so much energy. And it does, like, if you're changing like many tires, it does, like, does make your hands tired, does make your arms tired. And just having to focus that time on making sure your bike is good to go, especially if something breaks during a practice session, having to come down, fix it, and then head back up, make sure you have enough time. It's going to be very, very much looking forward to having a mechanic.
And does, like, being with a team like Frameworks unlock better access to kind of setup support? Like, they worked, I guess, directly with Fox on the suspension side. Are you going to get a bit more support in getting your bike dialed in perfectly?
I had pretty good support with like setting up my bike up until now, but I do think that it's going to be another level maybe. Just because I'll be surrounded by a lot of really knowledgeable people. While we were in Andorra, I got to test like the data acquisition stuff and stuff like that. I've never done that before. And it's really good getting opinions, like setup advice and opinions from so many knowledgeable people, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And so you're going to be sad to step away from Beyond Racing? Like, it was a very cool thing that you and Abby built. Like, will it continue in any format? What's going to happen to Beyond?
Yeah, it's definitely bittersweet. It's going to be like a little bit, it's going to a change, maybe a little bit sad not having Abby at the rate, like racing with me, like at the same places and stuff like that always, like accommodations, pits and stuff like that. But we are still going to continue doing things with Beyond Racing. Like, I think we'll still do some merch maybe. We'll do some clinics and stuff like that. We'll keep the brand, just not as a team. And yeah, we'll still go on, like, still be doing our usual shenanigans, but just not on the same team anymore.
Good stuff. And we've got like still a fairly big chunk of off season ahead of us. Like, are there certain things you're working on? Obviously, I mean, you've got a new bike to get up to speed on, but it sounds like that's something that doesn't stress you too much and that you're in a good place on that. Like, are there other gaps that you want to close in the off season?
Yeah, there's always a lot of stuff I want to work on. Currently trying on getting like super jacked. It's kind of working. I don't know. We'll see how that goes for me. But definitely trying to work on my strength. Because one thing I've felt I've struggled with is being able to hold 100% throughout a run. Like, I know Val di Sole, for instance, super hard for everybody. But I feel like if I were just stronger, I could race so much better there, just because I could ride well throughout the whole run if I were just stronger. So definitely going to work on my strength and general fitness. I'm going to try and spend as much as time as I can on my downhill bike. And I guess be intentional with my training and riding, stuff like that. Focus on bike setup, riding position, all that. I think there's always a lot to work on.
Yeah. Have you got some more team camps coming up?
Yeah. We're going to Portugal in the middle of January.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah. Sweet. It's going to be fun. Well, we should start wrapping up. We've got our final 4 questions that we've asked many people over the years. The first of those is, if our listeners had £150, which is about 180 euros, 190 US dollars, depending on what makes more sense to you, I'm guessing euros, to improve their performance on a bike, what would you recommend they go and spend it on?
Depends on what kind of bike they have.
Fair point. Let's say they're into like downhill and enduro and they've got a reasonably good bike.
They've got 180 euros to go spend on it. I'd make sure, I think the most important parts of your bike with 180 euros are going to be your contact points. So grips, like where your grips, pedals, and tires.
Yeah.
Where your hands meet your bike, your feet meet your bike, and where your bike meets the ground. So one of those.
Yeah. What's your go-to grip these days? Have you got a favorite?
I'm testing some new stuff right now, but I can keep you updated on that.
Okay, fair enough. Secret for now. What about pedals?
Not super picky. I mean,
No?
I've been running Crank Brothers for the last few years, which they've been good. Like something with a pretty big cage that's easy for me to clip into and to clip out of. One thing that's good about the Crank Brothers stuff is I never have a hard time finding the cleat to clip in.
Yeah.
I've had some other pedals where I've had to like search a little bit, but Crank Brothers are pretty good at just like
straight in.
Yeah, clipping in right away.
Fair play. All right. Second question. If you could wind back the clock and sit down with yourself age 16, what advice would you give 16-year-old Anna?
Oh God, 16-year-old Anna was a riot. Probably tell myself to chill, calm down, like it's gonna be fun. I don't know, something like that.
Have you got more chilled as you got a bit older?
Yeah, I think so. Well, I don't know. I was just like an angsty 16-year-old, you know?
As most 16-year-olds are, I think, right?
Definitely.
I don't think that's uncommon.
I was a very classic 16-year-old.
Fair play. All right. Third question. If you could have a coaching session from anyone, past or present, who would it be and what would you want to learn from them?
Probably Missy Giobbi.
Nice. Okay. And what would you want to learn, or you just want to go and hang out?
I don't know what exactly I would want to learn from her. I'd go into it with an open mind and probably end up taking something away from it. I don't know what it would be, but it would be something and probably beneficial.
Yeah, that would be really, really interesting. Have you met her at any of the US races?
I have, yeah.
Is that right? Yeah. How was that?
It's always an amazing experience talking to Missy. I love talking to her. I think one of the best race pep talks I got was from Missy in Snowshoe 2023. It was actually right before my qualifying run where I qualified 4th, which is the best I'd ever done in a qualifying or final or anything like that. She gave me this crazy pep talk and I was so hyped.
What did she say? Can you remember?
I don't know. She was just because she's Missy, it was something wild and just go all out, give it everything you got, just go all out from the beginning and, don't conserve everything. Just I don't know. Something like
Amazing.
that.
Yeah, everything I remember about Missy's racing was that she was basically a junior for her whole career. She was all in every run, every race.
Oh, yeah.
So good to watch.
Definitely.
Yeah, do or die approach. Nice one. All right, final one. What's something that you do every day that you feel benefits you?
I want to say something like sleeping, but everybody does that every day, hopefully. But one thing that I've been doing recently that I feel like benefits me has been focusing more on sleeping. And because I'm kind of just full-time athlete right now, I can sleep for a lot longer.
Yeah. So
a lot more time to sleep.
So sleep hygiene or just more of it? What? Are you just trying to get better at sleeping?
Yeah, I'm trying to get better at sleeping. It sounds like a weird thing to say, but I said,
I've the last 2 or 3 years doing exactly the same. Yeah,
it's something I've been trying to get better at. I still need to get a little bit better at sleep hygiene because I'm occasionally will watch a show or something while I'm going to bed, which isn't probably the best thing to do. But working on getting better at that, sleeping for longer, sleeping more, and I guess giving my body the rest that it needs.
Are you getting into napping?
I am. Yeah, I am.
No more email. I'm going to have a nap.
Yeah, pretty much. I have time to nap now if I want to.
Yeah. Are you feeling the benefits of it though? Because it can make a huge difference, right? Even if you just sleep better in the hours that you are, you don't sleep more hours, but you sleep better in those hours, it can make a big difference.
Yeah, definitely. And I think because I have a lot less on my plate right now, it's a lot easier for me to just like go to sleep and go rest. Which I feel I have a lot more energy. I feel like it's improved my mood as well. Like I'm just more consistently in a good mood.
Do you track like heart rate variability or anything like that? Are you monitoring anything that gives you a feedback on like recovery and all that stuff?
I go through phases. I used like a Whoop for a really long time.
Yeah.
I still have it. I just haven't, it died. Like I forgot my charger sometime and just haven't recharged it on mornings. But I don't know. I go through phases with wanting to know that stuff. There's sometimes when I really like knowing like what my recovery is, what my HRV is, resting heart rate, all that stuff. But I think it can have its downside to always knowing that stuff, because if your Whoop says, or your watch or whatever device you use says that you're have a low recovery, then you are going to feel that way just because it's telling you that, even if you technically feel fine.
Yeah.
Like you're probably going to feel more exhausted just because it's telling you that. So right now I haven't really been using anything to track that. I've just been kind of trying to listen to my body and what my body needs.
Yeah, learning to interpret what your body's telling you, I guess, is the key thing, isn't it? And those devices can help for a bit, but yeah, you got to learn to trust yourself, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It's super important to be able to listen to your body, know what your body needs.
Nice one. Well, it's been absolutely awesome hearing your backstory and everything that's gone on so far. I know Nico's very excited for next year, and I know I am, and I'm sure a lot of listeners are excited to see how you get on in the Frameworks tent. It's a big move, and it's going to be an exciting season for sure. If people want to follow you throughout the year, where's the best places for them to be looking?
I'm also super excited for next year to be joining Frameworks and all that. Best place to follow me, probably, I don't know, I guess Instagram. Winter, I'm not like super active on there, to be honest. I could probably be doing a little bit more, but in summer I usually keep it pretty updated. So yeah, probably Instagram.
And that's
or in real life, you know.
No, surely not. So is it as simple at Anna Newkirk, or is there some underscores or some numbers in there?
Anna Newkirk _
Perfect. I'll stick a link to that in the show notes so people can find it. But yeah, all the best for the season. It's going to be a fun one for sure. And thanks for taking time for a chat.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.